Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, in their latest quarterly earnings call with Wall Street analysts, made some pretty shocking comments about the future of the industry that you're not going to want to miss. So I'm going to share those details with you in this video and what it could mean for Nvidia stock investors. Let's get started.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
The Nvidia CEO, in talking about the computing power of artificial intelligence, said that the idea that the next generation could have thousands times and even hopefully extremely thoughtful and simulation-based, search-based models that could be hundreds of thousands, millions of times more compute than today, that's in our future. So what the CEO is saying here is that in the future, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we're going to have these types of models that require hundreds of times or millions of times more computing power than we have today. And what that means for Nvidia stock investors is that there's going to be more of these data centers optimized for artificial intelligence being built. And that's the category where Nvidia thrives. Remember, in their latest quarterly earnings results, the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2025, Nvidia generated almost $36 billion in revenue from the data center segment, and that was up a whopping 93% from the same quarter last year, from $18.4 billion to $35.6 billion. That's an incredible increase in just 1 year, especially because these are physical products that Nvidia is selling into these data centers, which is much more difficult to grow this rapidly when you think about the actual work that needs to go into building these data centers and all the inputs, the materials, the labor that go into that. It's not a software business. It's not like Netflix, where Netflix sales could double very easily because Netflix doesn't need to build things out in order to generate that increase in sales revenue. Tomorrow, they can sign up 100 million customers and their business would go on as it was. They didn't need to add that much more physical things in order to grow the business by that magnitude, whereas Nvidia does need a significant increase in physical things and moving across nations, all of those things that are required to build these out. So if it wasn't for that restricting factor, Nvidia's sales might have been up by even more than they are. It's a slower ramp up for Nvidia's business because of the physical nature of the products that it's selling. The Nvidia CEO saying that we require and we're going to need much more computing power, which is going to be great news for Nvidia investors in the long run. And that's important because that's where the biggest risk lies for Nvidia stock investors right now. Nvidia stock investors are worried that those increases that I just highlighted are going to end either this year, maybe next year, that the companies that are buying Nvidia's products, and these are the big four tech firms, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta Platforms, that they're going to build up their data centers and then they're going to stop. They're not going to continue expanding these data centers because they've been so expensive. These companies are spending, Amazon is spending over $100 billion this year, Microsoft, $80 billion, Alphabet, $75 billion, Meta Platforms, $65 billion. And the large percentage of those budgets that I just highlighted are going to data centers optimized for AI. So investors are concerned that spending from those big tech firms is going to dry up because those big tech firms are going to run out of capital. They're not going to be making enough money on those investments to continue spending on those categories. But what Nvidia CEO is saying here is, no, we've still got a long runway for growth here, and that they're going to continue spending in these categories because they're going to need that computing power. because customers are going to demand those compute necessities for their businesses. So NVIDIA also said that the vast majority of their compute today is actually inferencing, and Blackwell takes all of that to a new level. So with artificial intelligence, the two breakdowns are inference and training. First, these companies train their artificial intelligence models, which also requires a lot of computing intensity. And then there's inferencing, which is when you and I go to ChatGPT and we search for a question and ChatGPT gives us an answer. That's inferencing. So what NVIDIA is saying is most of their latest technology, Blackwell, is used for inferencing, and it's really, really good at that. And so that's the market it's aimed at right now, and that's where it's working really well. The CEO saying that they designed Blackwell with the idea of reasoning models in mind. And when you look at training, it's many times more performing. So the Blackwell technology, NVIDIA CEO said that it's sold out for 3/4 of this year in 2025. It's sold out. This is their latest generation technology, and it's sold out, and they already generated $11 billion in sales from this technology in the most recently reported quarter. And it's going to increase in the second and third and fourth quarter. And at the same time, the profit margins on those sales are also going to increase because NVIDIA will be producing more of these technologies, and at scale, you generate a lower cost per unit and you sell them at the same price, but your cost per unit falls. And so you generate a greater margin on those products, which is what NVIDIA is forecasting. So a lot of good things here from NVIDIA and NVIDIA stock investors. Of course, those risks remain with NVIDIA stock, that those large tech companies will reduce their spending. But I've been talking about how there's other companies that are waiting in the wings to get their hands on some of NVIDIA's technology because they haven't been able to. It's been sold out. And so if those large cap tech companies were to pull back their spending starting in 2026, there could be other companies, like companies investing in driverless car technology, that pick up the slack and drive that next leg of growth for NVIDIA in the longer term. But for now, at least for 2025, NVIDIA's prospects look excellent. And what the CEO is saying is that in the longer run, that there's even more to be excited about, that you and I as investors are not seeing the potential of the computing requirements that will be needed several years in the future. Hey everyone, if you like watching my videos, then I've added a great complimentary product just for you. I've written a book that's available for sale now that highlights my 6-step investing framework. Even if you don't follow that investing framework, just reading it and knowing how I evaluate stocks will make it a lot more interesting and informative to watch my videos. I've added the link in the description below.